Hi, I'm Chassy. This is my very first vlog, so please be patient with me. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of ums in here. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my weight loss journey, kind of up to the point of where I had surgery. If I get the go-ahead from Mandy, then I will move on and kind of start from my weight loss surgery, moving forward to the point where I am now. So, as I said, my name is Chassy. I'm 39. I live in Indiana, Southwest Indiana. I'm originally from Tennessee. It's usually pretty obvious when you hear me talk. I have been in Indiana since 2014, June, and I love it here. I feel like this is where I should be, so that's always nice. I am 39 years old. I have two boys, 20 and almost 16, so those are fun ages. I've got one that's out of the house and still lives in Tennessee, and then one that's getting ready to start driving. So, a little nervous about that, but we'll work with it. Let's see, I also have 3 cats, which you may see roam in and out. I've got one knocking on the door right now. 4 hermit crabs, a goldfish, and a hamster, and I'm engaged. I've been with my fiance about 3 years now, and so that's pretty much what I do with my time, other than trying to help moderate a group that, a charity that I care very deeply about, Bariatric Weight Loss Family. If you are on this journey, I very much suggest looking us up. It'll be Bariatric Weight Loss Family, not for profit, on Facebook. You can find all the support you can possibly need, answers for every question you have, no judgment of any kind. So that's kind of where I am with my life right now. See, I've always been overweight to get to the story where we are. Always been overweight since I was about 5 years old. Always been very active. When I was a kid, I played baseball, softball, soccer, tennis, volleyball, anything I could do outside. Climbing trees, getting in trouble, falling, getting cut, scrapes, all that stuff. So I was very active, but I also had a terrible diet. I ate whatever I wanted because I was a kid and that's what kids do. But all that exercise was sort of offsetting those calories. It didn't stop me from getting heavy, but it kept me, I was healthy fat, kind of. So everything, you know, those things kind of balance when you're young and you still have that good metabolism. So when I was about 16 years old, I tore my ACL. I was on a trampoline, you know, it snapped, it just went. And it never healed properly because I didn't get it treated properly. So that, over a period of the next year or so, pretty much put an end to all those athletic things that I was doing. You know, it would get weak, it would just go out from under me, and I just couldn't trust it. There was the pain, but it was more just the strength, and it was just gone. So without all of that movement and that activity that I had been doing, the weight just sort of piled on. So by the time I was about 18, I was still a senior in high school, I got pregnant with my oldest son, and I was, I want to say I was about 220 maybe when I got pregnant with him. Lost a little bit of weight during the pregnancy. After I had him, when I came home, I weighed 210. I'm only 5 feet tall, so that's a pretty large amount of weight for somebody that's 5 feet tall. I went on the depot shot for birth control, and you know, it was the best birth control for somebody, you know, where you didn't have to think about it every day. And I never thought about the side effect, the main side effect that I suffered from, which was the weight gain. So I put on about 70 pounds in a year. So I stopped the shot, but I still gained a little bit more weight after that. By the time I was 21, I was engaged. I had had the first of 3 miscarriages. I was around about 300 pounds at that point. When I was 22, I gave birth to my second baby, which was a little girl. You may hear me talk kind of interchangeably about having 2 sons, but then I said I have a daughter. She was born female, but has transitioned to male. So I did have a little girl, but now I have a son. I had lost weight during that pregnancy as well. And when I left the hospital, I was about 250 pounds. But after a couple of years, I'd had 2 more miscarriages, and my weight was up to about 300. In roughly 2011, I guess, I fell at work. I re-injured my knee. This time I tore my ACL again. I tore my meniscus. I fractured my tibial plateau. I broke my kneecap. I did not realize how much damage I'd done. I just thought, you weigh 350 pounds and you fall and you hit the floor. You're going to have some pain. So I waited about 3 weeks until things were just unbearable before I went to the doctor. And I continued to walk on it, continued to work on it. And by that point, there was really not much that could be done other than some pain management. So what little bit of physical activity I had been able to do got backed off even more. 2012, I left my husband. My divorce finalized in 2013, and in 2014, my youngest and I moved to Indiana. This is where my fiance is, and I wanted to be close to him. So we moved here. I got insurance here. I am on Medicaid. People do ask sometimes if Medicaid or Medicare or any state insurance will pay for weight loss surgery, and it can. Some states it doesn't, but here it does. I was I may have said I was about 340 pounds by then. I was in constant pain in my knees and my hips. My blood pressure was averaging about 150 over 100, even with being on 3 different medications for it. I had become diabetic. I was managing that with high doses of metformin twice a day. I was also on medication for high cholesterol. My good cholesterol was low. My bad cholesterol was high. So all of those medications, in addition to some that I was taking for depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder, added up with multiple doses of ibuprofen, Tylenol, meloxicam for pain. I was taking up to 20 pills a day. And this is just to function. My health wasn't good. My mental health was bad. My pain level was still there. It just wasn't as high. The motion in my legs was bad. Like, as I said, I'm 5 feet tall, and at that point I was trying to carry around 340 pounds. And I was working 8 or 9 hour shifts on my feet, with the exception of about a half hour during that time. So you're pretty much in agony. And when you're not at work, you're not on your feet. You're not doing anything. You're not getting any exercise at that point. So, excuse me. In 2015, I started looking at the idea of weight loss surgery. I kind of did a little research to see if there was even the option that my insurance would pay for it, because we couldn't afford to do it out of pocket. There were some situations where it said that it would pay, and I met a lot of those requirements. I had some comorbidities with the high blood pressure and the cholesterol and the arthritis and stuff. So I talked to my fiance, and he was pretty adamantly opposed to the idea of weight loss surgery. He had heard stories of other people who had significant complications. They weren't anyone that he knew personally. It was, a friend knows somebody who. And we hear that a lot. Everybody knows somebody who. So I asked him to please just, kind of look into it a little bit, do some research. Bariatrics have come a long way since 20 years ago. We have the sleeve. We're mostly no longer doing lap band, which is where a lot of people had their complications. Roux and Y, the gastric bypass, has come a long way. So the safety level is much higher than it was when this first came into the medical field. So after he did do a little research, he was willing to at least go with me to talk to my primary care doctor. She thought that I was a good candidate for the weight loss surgery. She felt like I would be able to comply with the dietary, aspects of it, and that taking off some weight would allow me to become more active, which would then help me take off even more weight. And so she wrote me a referral to a clinic here close to home, just within like 10 miles of where I am. And my first setback happened before I ever even got an appointment. They refused to accept my case, citing my weight as a major factor. At that point, I was at a 66.4 BMI. So I was literally too fat for a weight loss clinic to want to work with me. The risk factors are higher. When the heavier you are, the more likely you are to have complications during surgery immediately after. They also stated my mental health issues as a cause for concern. There is a risk of suicide. Some people don't realize. For people who struggle with depression after surgery, we tend to self-medicate with food. Food addicts, it is a real thing. Food addiction is a real thing. And when you can no longer have that drug, have that food, the depression is very real and very, it's deep and it's dark sometimes. And some people don't make it through that. So, that, as I said, that was my first setback, and I thought in a way that it was just over, that, okay, I'm done before I've ever started. And, I got back in contact with my primary doctor, and she wrote another referral to send me to Indianapolis, which is about 3.5 hours one way from where I live, but that's the nearest reputable practice that would deal with me. So in October of 2016, I started going back and forth, and I had the requirements for my insurance were that I had 6 consecutive monthly visits at the bariatric clinic with the physician's assistant, 6 consecutive monthly visits with a dietitian, a psychological evaluation. I had to attend an informational seminar, multiple blood tests, EKG, a sleep study. I had to keep daily food and exercise logs that got turned into my insurance when they submitted my paperwork. I had to have proof that I had been obese for the past 5 years, which was easy enough for me. For people who haven't had health coverage during that time, that can be a real roadblock for them because they don't have that documentation. The comorbidities that I had with, once again, the high blood pressure and the arthritis and the high cholesterol, those actually benefited me in this one position where, those things worked in my favor with getting insurance approval. I found out that I had sleep apnea when I had my sleep study done, severe obstructive sleep apnea. Basically, the fat in my throat would collapse and prevent me from breathing in my sleep at night. So I learned to sleep with a CPAP machine. Finally, in March of 2017, I was at a point where this team could submit to my insurance. I had lost a little bit of weight each month. Some months, like 1 month, I think it was like 14 pounds, but some months it might be 2 pounds. But a little bit of weight here and there is a victory for me. So I waited about 2 weeks. They told me that they normally heard back within 2 weeks, but my insurance had up to 30 days to reply. 2 weeks pass, and they denied me. So I've literally jumped through every hoop that they've given me. I've done everything. I've made, multiple day-long trips back and forth to Indianapolis for all my visits. More trips for my testing. More doctor's appointments for my sleep study. So like at this point I was dejected. I was just done, and I really thought it was just over again. Surgeons, insurance specialist resubmitted, double checked to make sure all the information was there. It turned out that they had denied me because they did not find proof that my doctor had sent with my history, my 5-year history. So another submission, again, another, I guess, an appeal, basically. 2 weeks pass, no answer. Insurance specialist at the clinic calls them. They haven't denied me, but they can't find the paperwork. They have lost it. My insurance company has lost my paperwork. The people who used to make those decisions were overseas. They had moved everything to the States because of, people complaining. And somewhere in that process, my paperwork got lost. So it got submitted a third time. By this point, it is almost the end of April, early May, or end of April, early May. So they finally, 2 weeks later, after the third submission, did approve my surgery. I had another EKG, some more blood work, an upper GI just to prepare for surgery. Spoke with an internal medicine doctor who told me what medications to continue, which ones to stop. I had 2 weeks of a liquid diet, which is the hardest thing that I have ever chosen to do in my life. It really cemented for me the fact that, yes, I am absolutely a food addict. But I got through it. A couple of little cheats, but I got through it. In June 7th of 2017, I finally had my surgery. It was a Wednesday morning. I had to be there at 5:30 a.m. So we went the night before and got a hotel room and stayed there. So I got there at 5:30. They set my IV. I believe did a little bit of lab work. I think that's just the typical thing they do when they admit you is take a little blood. I had my sleeve at 8 o'clock that morning. I was in recovery till about 10:30, I guess. Normally they said about an hour in recovery. I was there about 2.5 hours, partly because I was having a lot of nausea and having a hard time waking up from the anesthesia, but that's typical for me with any anesthesia. I've had a few surgeries and that's always been an issue. And partly just that they had a lot of people and they were getting people discharged at the same time as they were getting people admitted. I went to St. Francis Hospital in Indianapolis. The weight loss clinic is St. Francis Franciscan Weight Loss Center. Dr. Hazem Shamsuddin did my surgery, and I would recommend his practice to anyone. They have been so respectful and so helpful, and they know my insurance better than my insurance does. And they have been attentive and helpful since surgery. Anytime I've had a question, they've always either answered the phone right then or called me back. My doctor called me after surgery, called me personally from home because I had torn a muscle in my stomach, and he was calling to make sure that that I was doing okay with that and stuff. So this has stretched out a little longer than I thought it would. I am going to go right now. That's my journey up until my surgery date. And as I said, if Mandy gives me the go-ahead, I'll be making another video detailing how things have gone since then. I'm about 7.5 months post-op now. So there's a bit of story there too. I hope you've learned something about the process. I hope maybe I've answered some questions or maybe calmed some nerves. I don't know. But that has been my process, and I think it's been pretty typical of a lot of people that are, in my position with my type of health insurance and things. So I'm going to go, and I will see you next time.